So now you have your job interviews, or maybe you would like to know some tips for your future interviews. This is Rachel and I'm an intern at the University of Manchester. You know what, it kind of feels weird to say that I'm an intern because I'm also a current student at University of Manchester. But anyways, today I'll be sharing 7 tips that I wish I knew before my first job interview. So let's go. Disclaimer here, I'm not an HR executive or a career coach or anything like that. I'm still a student, but last year I was in a lot of job interviews as an interviewee for my internship program, and I was also an interviewer for one nonprofit that I was a part of. So I kind of understand both sides, like what the interviewers are looking for and what mistake we the students usually make during the interview. And to be honest, I didn't learn all the jobs that I applied for, but you know what? But most importantly, I learned from my mistakes, I learned from my weaknesses, and I'm still learning for better approaches. And these tips are what I learned along the way. And plus, this video is aimed at viewers who do not have much experience about job interviews and looking for some tips. So let's dive into it. So my first tip number 1 is don't be afraid to highlight your skills. A lot of employers value qualities like time management, communication, teamwork, adaptability, problem solving, and so on. And they usually ask about that during the interview. This is usually through behavioral questions like, tell me about a time where you have to work as a part of a team, or give me an example where you have to work under pressure, or something like that. For such questions, you have to provide real-life examples that demonstrate how you have used these skills effectively. And when we answer questions during the interview, sometimes we kind of feel like, oh my god, am I oversharing about this thing? Am I sharing too much? Am I repeating my CV here? But you know what? Interviewers won't know your skills and competency unless you tell them during the interview. So please just highlight your skills, okay? Tip number 2, add as many details as possible when you answer the interview question. So don't just say, I led a team in high school, or I was a class president in high school. You need to answer by adding details like how many people in your team, what were you trying to achieve, what impact did you make in the community, and so on. And the best way is by using a structured approach called STAR method. I know some of you already know what STAR method is, but some of you might not know what it is, so I'm gonna explain a little bit here. STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So for the S, the situation, you have to provide a bit of context about the experience that you would like to discuss. For example, if you want to talk about your time as a volunteer copywriter, you need to provide a bit of background information. For example, the name of the organization, or the tasks that you have to do, or the contents that you have to create to help the interviewer understand the scenario. For the T, the task, you have to explain the task or the challenge that you face in that situation. For instance, for the volunteer copywriter that I mentioned in previous example, you can discuss like the goal of the organization was to produce 10 blog posts within a week, or you know what, some scenarios like that. Mainly what you have to say is that what were you trying to achieve or accomplish in that situation. Okay, now let's go to the A, the action part. For the action part, you can describe the action that you took to complete the task or to overcome the challenges. Here, the mistakes that most people make is that they like to highlight the performance of the whole team rather than the individual performance. So mainly just focus on the individual steps that you have to overcome or you have to take action. Also, this is the part where you have to focus on to emphasize your skills. For instance, the action part of volunteer copywriter role can be providing detailed information on how you do the research, how you communicate effectively with the team, how you create the content calendar, how you manage your time effectively, how did you work under pressure to produce 10 blog posts within a week. You know what, just give the details of what you do and focus on the skills that you utilize to complete the task or to overcome the challenge. Now the R, the results. So for the result, you have to share the outcomes of the actions. In this part, it is better to use data such as number and percentages whenever possible to highlight the impact of your actions. You need to discuss all the positive results that you achieve, all the lessons that you've learned, the skills that you've learned, and the positive contribution that you make in the community. So for the same volunteer copywriter role, for instance, you can say 6 out of 10 blogs went viral with over 10,000 engagement on social media and the followers increased by 15%. The main point is to highlight the positive impact that you made in the organization or in the community, so that you know what, interviewers will see you that you can bring some value to their organization. Alright, so STAR: situation, task, action, and result. Don't forget to use this when you are answering your interview questions. Okay, now let's move on to tip 3, which is prepare questions to ask to the interviewer. At the end of every interview, they will ask you something like, do you have the question for us? And what we usually answer is no, all clear, everything, thank you for the opportunity, and something like that. And then what? You miss the opportunity to impress them. That's why always have the thoughtful question to ask your interviewer. This will not only create a really good impression, but also demonstrate that you are genuinely interested in the role. You can ask about the company's work culture, their team dynamics, and the expectation from the role. So one example question is that, if I were given a chance to join this organization, what should I prepare in advance to be effective since day one? This is just an example question, okay? There are a lot of questions available that you can ask to your interviewer. Now let's move to another tip. So tip number 4, use AI. Yes, use AI. With all this booming technology, artificial intelligence is a great way to prepare for your interview. You can practice mock interviews with AI, ask for question bank, or maybe ask for the feedback. So what I did was open the ChatGPT or any AI website that you know, add a prompt like, pretend yourself as a career coach or HR executive, and generate 30 interview questions based on the below job description. Then you know what? You can just copy and paste the job description and ask the AI for the questions. And in my experience, believe it or not, most of the AI questions were actually asked in my job interview. So this is a really useful tip, okay? Next time, just try to use AI when you're preparing for your interview. Now let's move on to tip number 5. Always follow up with a thank you email. This tip is often overlooked but can make a huge impact. After your interview, send a thank you email to your interviewers. And if you already have a connection on LinkedIn, maybe send a thank you message to your interviewer. Express your gratitude for the opportunity, restate your enthusiasm, and mention a specific point that resonates with you during the interview. This not only shows your professionalism, but also help you stay fresh in the interviewer's mind as they make the decision. But you know what? Even if you get rejected, you can still reach out to the interviewer for the feedback, because this can provide insights into areas that you can improve. And you can use this feedback to refine your interview strategies for your future interviews. So another tip number 6, your appearance matters, even for the online interview. If the company has more of a formal culture, you need to wear something that is professional. And if they are more relaxed, then business casual or smart casual might be the way to go. You know what? When in doubt, it is better to slightly overdress than underdress. Also, your body language is important. Maintain eye contact throughout the interview because it shows your confidence and your engagement. Be authentic and believe in yourself and your capabilities. It's very okay to feel nervous, but remember that you have prepared enough for this and you are really ready for this. For me, I always do some breathing exercise to calm down because I always tend to be so nervous before my big interviews. Another tip is that you can visualize yourself walking into that interview room, performing well and doing your best in that interview. So this video is coming to an end and I would like to give you some general tips as tip number 7. So before the job interview, always research the company and the organization that you are applying. You know what? Nothing impresses the interviewer more than showing you know their company inside and out. You need to understand their missions and their values. Go beyond their company website, go to their recent news, projects, and their social media presence. Go to Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and check what's happening in that company, what they are doing in that company. This will also help you to tailor your responses when you are answering the interview questions. Also, you need to know your resume, your CV, your application inside out. For example, if you mention a particular project in your CV, be prepared to dive deep into the details, because for sure the interviewers are gonna ask you about that project. So that's it. Now let's have a bit of a summary. Tip number 1, highlight your skills. Tip number 2, as many details as possible and use the STAR method. And tip number 3, prepare questions to ask the interviewers. Tip number 4, use AI to prepare for the interview. And tip number 5, always follow up with a thank you email. And tip number 6, dress professionally, be authentic, and be confident. And finally, tip number 7, research the company and know your resume inside out. Alright, thanks for watching and let me know if the tips work for you. Good luck with your job interviews. Bye bye and see you next video.